Hi, I'm Karen with Adventures in Wisdom, and today you're going to gain insight into the profound impact that mindset skills and life coaching can have on a child, her family, and her coach. Sometimes we're asked by prospective coaches and curious parents if they can see life coaching in action. Well, because our coaches work with children who are minors, we can't record and share their sessions due to privacy. But we can share some of their stories by changing their names. So, today I'm going to share a coaching journey with you using the real life story of an 11-year-old girl we'll call Cindy, so that you can get a sense of how story based wisdom coaching can help kids and families. I'm going to alternate between providing commentary and playing videos from my interview with a wisdom coach who is working with this young girl. We're going to start with a story. So the month was November, and Cindy had chosen to leave in person school because she was having social challenges with friends, including being bullied. And on top of that, she was struggling with a fear of the dark that had developed after a house fire had left her feeling frightened and insecure. Seeking comfort, she was sleeping with her mother every night. And Cindy was deeply unhappy, and her parents didn't know how to help her. So Cindy's mother had heard about wisdom coach Rahima Khoja, and she'd reached out for help. Rahima first held a discovery call with Cindy and her mother in order to understand the situation and to discuss the goals that both Cindy and her parents would have from coaching. From there, Rahima recommended a coaching package that would use the story based Life Coaching for Kids curriculum from Adventures in Wisdom to help Cindy learn how her mind works so that she could feel more empowered, more confident, and overcome the fears that were holding her back and impacting her family. These fears included a fear of the dark, a fear of returning to school, and a fear of facing bullies. So, in this first video, Rahima provides insight into Cindy's background and explains the mindset skills that they started with.
And going to online school was a choice for her. It wasn't that she had to go online because of COVID, but she was bullied. She was going through social issues at the school with her friends whom she thought were friends, but in the end really were not for her, did not have her best interests at heart. And so her self-confidence was very low, her self-esteem was very low, and her mom found me, and we talked about, what she saw for her. And so the first session was actually about, it was about her self-talk and how she's talking to herself and becoming her own BFF. And that was really wonderful for her. And what was really, I think what really changed for her is the idea that she could actually think in a different way, and that actually she was the one that was in control of her thoughts, and nobody else. So we talked about that. We talked about, we also did the story Canville and Can'tville, and she learned about her comfort zones and what she's fearful of and what it would be like, for her to only live in her comfort zone, and how that would really stop her growth. But the whole idea was to face her fears. So how would she face her fears? Then I moved on to her RAS and discovering what her reticular activating system was and how she needs to build these neural pathways to help her to face these fears.
So, you'll notice that before tackling the 5 steps for moving through fear, Rahima helped Cindy learn foundational mindset skills. The curriculum that Rahima is using to teach mindset skills to Cindy is called the Adventures in Wisdom Life Coaching for Kids curriculum. What's unique about Adventures in Wisdom is that we use stories to teach mindset skills to kids 6 to 12 years old, and a unique story coaching process delivered by a coach to ensure that kids learn, understand, and experience those skills.
When we moved finally to the 5 steps of managing fear, and funny enough, the first fear that we were dealing with was her fear of the dark. So she went through some trauma earlier on where there was a fire in her home, and she was in
Oh,
her bed.
wow.
Yeah, she was in her bedroom. So she wasn't with her parents. So it was very frightening for her that this to be happening. And she wasn't with her parents. She was in her room on her own, sleeping. And it was dark. And so this is where it kind of all stemmed from. So when we went through this 5 steps of managing fear, and we talked about, like what was really bothering her and naming the fear. And the fear was her fear of the dark. And then we explored it a bit more. Okay, well, what about the dark frightens you? And, her feelings surrounding it, and how her only comfort was with her mom, in her mom's room, and sleeping with her mom. And that's what she had been doing since this time. And she wasn't comfortable getting up and walking through the hallway or anything like that in the dark. And so we talked about the fear. We talked about what really frightened her. And then we went to step number 3, where we developed the plan. And when we talked about the plan and how step by step she was going to do this, okay, so she was going to grab her phone and maybe put the flashlight on and try and, maybe walk around a bit in the room, try at least to go in the beginning part of the hallway. And, so she starts to at least getting up and getting used to walking around. So we put the plan in place. And then we talked about visualization and how she could visualize her success. So I told her, use your imagination, think about the safest place where you would feel so safe and so secure. And I want you to imagine that place and put that in your heart, and know that you can always go back to that place where you feel so safe and so secure. Yeah. And that you are safe in your body. You are taken care of, and the thoughts are only thoughts. So, and we have the power to change our thoughts. So, I wanted her to feel that empowerment. So then we went on to affirmations that she would use all the time, to help her to get there. And out of the blue, the one night, her dad said to her, "Can you go get me an ice pack?" Because he hurt himself or something. Well, she got up and she went down the hallway in the dark to the kitchen to get the ice pack. And she came back and she gave it to her dad. And she was just, what? Oh my goodness. I just did this. This is huge. So, and that was taking action, the 5th step. So it was so empowering for her. It was just amazing. And then she told me about it in her next session, and she was so confident, and she just felt so good.
Now, stories are an essential part of teaching mindset skills to kids because stories present a safe way for kids to identify with characters and a way for coaches to help kids relate the situations that characters face to the things that are happening in kids' own lives. We also give kids language for expressing how they're feeling. For example, kids can be reluctant to talk about emotions like worry or anger or fear, but they love talking about the grungies and dragons. So let's learn more about how Rahima helped Cindy. So Rahima started by teaching Cindy the mindset skill of positive self-talk. Now, self-talk is such an important skill because learning how to notice what we're saying to ourselves and then power shifting unhelpful thoughts is the secret behind self-esteem and self-confidence. Positive self-talk helps children kind of program their mind for positive self-esteem by building strong neural pathways. Wisdom coaches teach self-talk with the story Choosing Your BFF, or Best Friend Forever, to help kids understand how to use positive self-talk and become their own BFF. Cindy was astounded to realize that she could think in a different way, and she was excited to learn that she was in control of her thoughts and nobody else. Rahima then shares how she taught Cindy about comfort zones using the story Canville and Cantville. Now, young children often don't understand the concept of self-confidence or why it's important. But the story Canville and Cantville, A Tale of Two Towns, helps children understand what self-confidence is and the impact of having an I can belief system. Kids explore areas that they don't feel very confident in, and then they practice living in Canville. As a result, they're often more willing to try new things and to set and achieve goals. Now, you heard Rahima mention that it was in this session that Cindy realized that her fears were stopping her growth, and she realized how important it would be to learn to move through those fears. But before Rahima taught Cindy about the 5 steps for moving through fear from Adventures in Wisdom, she wanted Cindy to understand the brain science behind how her brain works so that she would understand why the 5 steps for moving through fear and the other mindset skills she was learning for that matter would work so well for her. So Rahima taught Cindy about neural pathways and her reticular activating system, or RAS. Now, learning about neural pathways helps Cindy understand why some things made her nervous and how to prepare her brain to minimize her nervousness and prepare to achieve new goals, especially things that were outside her comfort zone. The story called Pathway to Success helped Cindy learn how to create her own path to success. In learning about her RAS, Cindy learned that she has a superpower in her brain. Her RAS pays attention only to the things that are relevant to her. So she learns that when we tell ourselves what we want through affirmations and goal setting, our RAS puts our goals on our radar screen. So it looks for things that will help us get what we want. So the story we use to teach this concept is called Your Radar for Success. So Rahima mentioned the 5 steps for moving through fear that included naming the fear, exploring the fear, developing a plan, visualizing success, and taking action. But it was the combination of the first mindset skills and the 5 steps for moving through fear that really helped Cindy conquer her fear of the dark. By January, Cindy's parents started exploring her return to school, but she was still afraid. So Rahima used the 5 steps for moving through fear with Cindy again to face that fear. Let's watch.
At that point, it was probably about 5 sessions in, and it was in the month of January. And I said to her, so what do you think about going back to school? No, 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 that's not an option for me right now. And when her mom and dad brought it up with her that, everything was opening up and majority of students were in person, there's no mask mandate right now, and it's okay for you to go back. So initially her reaction again was no, and we used the 5 steps of managing fear again for going back to school in person. And today, when I had my session with her and we went through the exploring the fear, and I made like a web, and we talked about all the positive aspects of going back to school and how she was so excited to be with her friends. And the negative aspects, well, she was obviously still worried about seeing these 2 bullies again, but now we've developed a plan for all of it. And I also told her that she's not the same person that was in school last year. She's much more stronger. She's much more confident. She believes in herself. And I said, it's not the same person that's going back. So you have this self-esteem that you've built from the inside out that will be able to handle this. So she was so excited. And today she was, she's actually taking action again because she has a sports practice that she's going to. So she's not going for classes, but she's going to the school for the sports practice for an hour and a half. And then she's coming home and she'll do that for a few weeks until she goes back in person full time.
So one of the things I love most about this video is that Rahima reminds Cindy that she's not the same person she was a few months ago when she had withdrawn from in-person school. Cindy now had self-esteem that was built from the inside out, regardless of circumstances, and she can handle this situation. And I loved that the first action that Cindy took to return to school wasn't necessarily the classroom. She went back for sport. So did it work? Let's watch and see these amazing results.
And her mom is just over the moon because, last year in November, she was just, how am I supposed to deal with this? And I don't know how to bring her back to this. And, you want to, at the same time, as a parent, you want the best for your child, but how do you do that when you're not sure how to teach these skills? And we've been working together since then, and it's just been absolutely amazing for both of them. So many aha moments, so many realizations. So that was really amazing. And she was just over the moon, so happy
Yeah.
and so excited. And her excitement just, came out of her. And I said, so on a scale of 0 to 10, how do you feel about going back to school right now? And then she went like this. And I said, you're at a 9? And she said, I'm at
Wow.
a 9. And I said, oh my
Wow.
goodness, that's so
That's so
awesome.
exciting.
So, when a child is struggling, it's not only the child who's affected, it impacts the whole family. And that's why wisdom coaching is so powerful, because wisdom coaches not only teach these skills to kids, but they also provide support materials to help the family system understand what the child is learning so that they can practice between sessions. This has an impact on the whole family, and we hear this time and time again from coaches around the world. So, what was it about child life coaching that had the greatest impact on Cindy? She's learned several skills, so I wondered which one had the biggest impact on her. Let's see what Rahima had to say.
For sure, it was managing fear and
Yeah.
learning about the dragons or the
Mhm.
dragon of fear and
Yeah.
using those 5 steps. Because once we actually put it down, so she took a blank sheet of paper and we did an activity based around it. Okay, well, step 1, let's talk about the fear. Let's name the fear. What is the fear? And once it all went from her head
Yeah.
to the paper and she actually wrote it down, it didn't seem as bad as she thought it was. And not
Wow.
only that, because we developed a plan around it, and it was a step-by-step plan of, how she was going to face this fear and how she was going to overcome it, it just didn't seem as daunting anymore
Mhm.
because she was, she felt confident and more secure. And I think a lot of it is just going through those 5 steps and having it more structured. And it
Yeah.
just made a lot of sense to her. And so, she didn't even realize, it was amazing because she didn't even realize that she was actually moving through the 5 steps. And,
Yeah.
and it was just, wow, it was such an aha moment for her, especially visualizing success, where I told her, okay, imagine yourself in your safest place and how you feel right now, and that you've already done what is
Yeah.
giving you that fear. And you've already overcome it. And how do you feel? And you're already there. It's already done. And that was really such a huge realization for her. Um, and also the fact that, our fear is caused by our thoughts, but
Yeah.
we have the power to change our thoughts.
Yeah.
So that realization in itself was just, what? Wait I can do that? Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
You really have the power to do that. And it's just amazing. So, her mom was just over the moon, and we put together this plan about her going back to school, and it's really working for her. So I'm so glad. And then when we went through it again today, and we looked at a different fear, and fear of, who bullied her at school and who she might see, and developing a plan around that, it just made so much sense to her. And there's just structure there, and children
Yeah.
love the structure. So, it worked for her really, really well.
Cindy learned about the dragon of fear and how to tame it, and it sounds like visualization was one of her favorite tools. Now, visualization helped her to build new neural pathways to practice success before she even experienced it. And she programmed her RAS to look for ways to achieve success in conquering her fears. By understanding that our fear is caused by our thoughts and that we have the power to change our thoughts, Cindy gained a superpower of self talk. Rahima shares that it was the structure of the 5 steps for moving through fear that really worked for Cindy, and this structure can be followed by anybody. So it's exciting to see how these mindset skills interrelate and they combine to help the kids and the families. So finally, we've talked about the impact that wisdom coaching has had on Cindy and her family. I was curious, what was the impact on Rahima herself? Let's see what she has to say.
Can you imagine the type of person that these children can really become? They
Yeah.
are
Wow.
confident, they walk with their head held high. They know what they want in life. They're not drifting through. They are able to feel the confidence and attain the success that they want in so many areas, and not dependent on outside circumstances, because we can't control these outside circumstances and they come and go just like everyday ups and downs. But because they're so strong from within, they can really tackle anything. And as a parent, to have a child that's able to look at life this way, I don't know, I wouldn't want anything else. It's absolutely amazing. And to be able to, have the curriculum to go to teach these skills, to help them to understand them, to help them to internalize them, to see these aha moments, it is the most fulfilling thing I have ever done. And I have worked with children for over 15 years, but this is amazing.
Every time I talk with Rahima about her work, she just exudes purpose and joy because she knows that the work she's doing is changing kids' and families' lives and her own life as well. So we received an email from Rahima just a couple weeks later, and this is what she had to say. She said, "Hi, Karen. I hope you're doing well. Some great news. The Managing Fear young girl went back to school in person on Monday and looked her bully straight in the eyes and then turned away. But she wasn't afraid. She has been enjoying school over the last few days and is so happy to be back. We again went through the steps of managing fear on Saturday before her first day back on Monday. She named the fear blank, the name of her bully, and we went through the whole process, and she faced her fear on Monday. She did it, and I'm so proud of her." Rahima is an educator and a certified wisdom coach who's based in Canada. But because she coaches online, she works with kids from around the world. Since 2013, Adventures in Wisdom has certified hundreds of coaches in over 30 countries to life coach kids. The result, as you've seen with Cindy today, is empowered kids and transformed families around the world. So if you'd like to learn more about getting certified as a wisdom coach and doing the kind of work that Rahima is doing, or if you'd like to find a wisdom coach for your child, go to adventuresinwisdom.com and choose the appropriate tab at the top of the website to learn more. That's adventuresinwisdom.com.